So, Bronny James recently made headlines for declaring, I put in quotes, declaring, for the 2024 NBA draft. And I think people are getting the wrong idea about this. He's not officially declaring for the draft. His name has been put into the transfer portal as well. And times are different now. You can hire an agent and still maintain your college eligibility now. Unlike a few years ago when you declared for the draft with an agent, you weren't going to be able to go back to college. And it's clear Bronny has an agent. He's one of the most valuable college athletes in terms of NIL valuation for obvious reasons. He's the son of LeBron James. So he can declare for the draft, but it's more like testing the waters. And it's not uncommon to see that. Zach Edey, back-to-back National Player of the Year, he tested the waters last year, decided to come back for the better. Jaden Ivey, after his freshman year at Purdue, also tested the waters, decided to come back. Bronny's doing something that's really smart because he can get an idea of where NBA teams are going to view him as a prospect right now. If he has good workouts, if teams are impressed by his interviews, and teams give him the idea that he can be drafted not pretty highly, but like maybe first round, he probably will declare. If you would ask me, do I think he should declare? Probably not. Do I think he will declare? Also probably not. NIL's changed a lot. Guys are staying in college. There's more incentive to stay instead of make that jump to the league. And for Bronny, I don't know if it's going to be at USC. I don't know if it's going to be somewhere else. But I think with another year, he could be a first round pick. I believe that he has first round tangibles, but he didn't get to showcase it fully this year. Mainly because of something that people aren't talking about. I understand. 4.8 points per game, 2.8 rebounds per game, 2.1 assists per game. Not the best assist to turnover ratio. Below 40% from the field, below 30% from 3, below 70% from the line. It doesn't look great. I think people are forgetting the situation around him and the circumstances that he had this season. He missed a decent amount of time. He was late to get to the season because of a life-threatening situation medically. He had the cardiac situation. It was unclear if he would play. I'm actually kind of shocked that he did play this year. And it was clear that his rhythm wasn't there. He wasn't able to get into a flow. But he did showcase stuff. He's a pretty good athlete. He's pretty strong. He's a great defensive prospect. Like, right now, he is, like, legit great. He plays passing lanes well. He anticipates things well. He's a pretty decent shot blocker, or at least shot terror for his position. His instincts are really good there. He's engaged, has a great motor, makes those hustle plays. And offensively, even though the shot wasn't balling, he's a very smart offensive player. He doesn't really make bad plays. He plays within the flow of the offense. He doesn't try to stall the offense at any point. Honestly, I would even argue to a point where he's unselfish to a fault, which is understandable. He's a freshman. But I do think there's like an NBA player in here. Obviously, being the son of LeBron James helps. I'm not saying he's going to be like a great NBA player, like a star or anything. But I think he could be like a DeAnthony Melton type of player. Maybe even Alex Caruso type. Like this defensive-minded, connecting guy that can maybe start, maybe come off your bench, at least be a rotation guy, bring the hustle, bring the defense, be enough offensively. I think that player's there. Now, we didn't get to show it this year, and it is a risk to take him like in the first round this year. But let's say he goes back to USC. They just hired Eric Musselman. Eric Musselman will love a player like Bronny. One that's bought in, that can, be defense first, makes those hustle plays, smart player. And he has a good year. Let's say he averages 10, 5, and 5. Which I think is possible looking at his numbers this year. Considering he averaged 4, 3, and 2 in 19 minutes. 10, 5, and 5, if he gets the minutes, he gets the rhythm, his shot starts falling, he could be a first round pick next year. And I'm not saying a high first round pick because next year's class is loaded, but he could be a first round pick. Teams will take a guy like that in the first round. But I think there's this idea that he's trying to control the narrative, things like that. He's doing something a ton of prospects have done, and it's a smart thing to do. It's the smartest thing anyone can do in his position for his career. And when I look at his situation, I think a lot of this has to do with the fact he's LeBron's son. He's so popular. He's going to be popular. Look at his dad. But I think the narrative is too much about that and not about what he could be. Because if you look at his situation, the medical scare in the offseason, and the fact that he even played this year, that should be celebrated even if his stats aren't great. That's something that should be celebrated. That's a lot to come back from. And I also think that if he wasn't LeBron's son, that would be the big talking point. But because he's LeBron's son, people expect him to be this big time scorer, put up big numbers, when that's not who he is. He's a connector. He makes the hustle plays. He plays well off of others. He's a team first guy. That's the kind of player he is. And I'm not saying what he did this year is enough to get him drafted highly by any means. I would still take him in the second round just based off his defense alone. I do think he's legitimately special as a defensive prospect. But I do think there's enough to suggest he can be good offensively. You can't just use 1 year of a weird medical situation that threw off his rhythm when he's proven to be a good shooter in the past. He has good form. He has good range. He can play off the ball really well. I think the on-ball upside with him is limited, which might hold him back from ever being a superstar or even a star guard in the NBA. But I do think there's potential here, from what I saw, based off the context of how we started his season, the situation in the offseason. Given all of that, I do think I saw NBA potential in him. And I did think coming back for another year would be for the best. But I just wanted to give my thoughts. He's been in the news, and I feel like people have the wrong idea about it. I still believe in him, and I think he's going to be a serviceable to maybe even good NBA player. If he can get it all together, get it figured out, the medical stuff checks out. But I'm rooting for him. I've said for a while I think he's actually underrated. But that's all I've really had to say in this one. I'll see you guys whenever I decide to upload on this channel again.